John Swinney's made clear that he doesn't think there's any need for inflation-busting rises because he says that he's funded councils, he gave them more cash to mitigate the national insurance rise. But, you look at some of the rises in some of the councils and it's like 10%, 12%. I think one council...
15 in
is
Orkney.
Is it Orkney, 15%? I mean, who's going to get the blame for this?
Well, John Swinney, if he really had an issue and thought, there's absolutely no need for these council tax rises, he could just put a freeze on council tax rises, surely, again.
He could.
But,
I mean, he'd need to
he's
find...
not doing that.
He'd need to find the money for it. Though,
exactly. But I noticed today
Just
during...
be careful with that. I think that's going to come up on the microphone. Apologies.
Sorry. I noticed today during the speech that John Swinney had carefully planted a little nugget, which was that he said 3 to 4% of all councils' council tax rises are a direct result of the UK government's national insurance employer contributions, which, that was announced by Rachel Reeves in the budget, that employers were going to have to basically pay more for their national insurance contributions, which has caused huge problems for, businesses who are now facing like huge wage bills, etc. So I thought it was quite interesting that John Swinney's already planting that seed that it's, potentially a third or half of these rises is actually as a result of Westminster. But every time we talk about council tax rises and there's the potential for rises to come in, there's always these huge numbers floating around. So it's not as if, because of Westminster, it's not as if councils would be saying, all right, well, we're only going to do it 5% rise, but we better just bump up to 10% now because Westminster's brought in this national insurance thing.
I heard a different theory. I've heard that. I spoke to 2 senior figures in councils who also said that they thought that councils were going above what they needed to go this year because they thought that in the next budget there was going to be a council tax freeze, a pre-election freeze, and so they were trying to get extra money ahead of that inevitable decision.
That makes sense, though. It does, because, I mean, is this not the first year where they've been able to raise it?
There were hikes last year.
Right, okay, so, but...
No, it was a freeze last year. I think maybe the one before that.
Oh,
was
it was.
increases.
Sorry, yes, it was. Yes.
So, I mean, it's a dog's breakfast. Sometimes it's a freeze. Sometimes they're allowed to set their own rates.
But there was a period, it was a long period of time where it was frozen, and that did obviously do damage to councils, and councils are constantly saying they're not getting enough money. And I mean, you can see maybe they're getting enough money and they're just spending it on the wrong things, but you can see the absolute state of the country's, roads and high streets, all the rest of it. I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway.
I think there was Susan Aitken, the leader of Glasgow City Council this week, argued for kind of a whole redrawing of the council boundaries.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it is time to kind of look at how local government operates